Hey everyone, this is Sam Houston here. I'm going to be subbing for Ken Kreitzer and we're representing CamVetsMedia. Tonight we're going to be talking about Army's victory over Charlotte this past Saturday up at Mikey Stadium and their upcoming game against the Tulane Green Wave down in the Big Easy, New Orleans. It's going to be a very big test for Army, which happens to be on a two-game winning streak. So in our huddle tonight, we have calling in from South Jersey. We have former Army great offensive lineman, part of the juice that made Mike Mayweather go, Steve Chaloult. Steve, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic.
All right. From South Florida, we've got Richard Miller.
Good evening, Sam. Nice to be here.
All right. Good to see you. Chuck, I always forget where you're from. You're in New York,
Long
right?
Island. Yes. Long Island to be exact.
Long Island, of course. All right, Chuck, how you doing tonight?
Great, especially after what we witnessed this weekend.
Sure, sure. And hopefully maybe Ken will might maybe try to come back and join us, but in the meantime, we're going to drive on. And then of course we have calling in from Minnesota. We have Stephanie Sakry. Stephanie, how are you doing tonight?
Everyone says my last name wrong. It's Sakry, but it's
Yeah.
okay. I forgive you.
Well,
But I'm doing okay.
so I gave it the Southern drawl is what I did. So you know how it goes when you're down in North Alabama. But hey, so this past Saturday, Army definitely.
What about Curtis and Richard? One from Florida and one from New York.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I got
And
Richard. I
Chuck.
got
Yeah,
Richard.
Richard.
he,
I got
he,
And
he,
Richard.
Richard
he,
and
he
So,
mentioned me.
and then from New
okay.
York City, yes, we've got Curtis Harris Jr. Curtis, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well, doing well. Glad that we won.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. Yeah, sorry, I was trying to speed up things since we had the little technical glitch earlier.
No worries, no worries.
So, all right. So for this past Saturday, I was very fortunate to be able to be at the game. I was also there for a few days peripheral to the game because it was the Sprint Football Alumni Weekend, and got to see a bunch of teammates as well as alumni from the Sprint team. Mark West, the coach, did a fantastic job hosting as always, and he's got a new establishment in Highland Falls, which is a big hit called Westies. And we spent a lot of time at Westies this past weekend, I've got to say, and we'll definitely be back there. And Friday night, the Sprint team took on UPenn, dominated pretty much as we expected, 38-0. So it was a good weekend. I know there were a number of other alumni events going on. Several classes were having reunions, and they were treated to a victory at Mikey Stadium. Army took the 24-7 victory over Charlotte. Cale Hellam started the game and looked good from the start, including a 50-yard run on the first drive to set him up with first and goal that got the Army scoring underway. Army's defense did an outstanding job of keeping Charlotte in their own side of the 50-yard line for almost the entire game, and made a number of 3 or 4 and out stops that got the ball back to the offense. There were some glitches though, and we're going to get into that conversation. From my observation, the Hayden Reed fumble was something that is troublesome because it was the second time this season that he has fumbled, and it was about at the exact spot on the field that he fumbled the last time. And fortunately, this one did not do any damage, but there was also there were some special teams glitches as well. Special teams, I pointed out, is a little bit of a concern this season. There was a field goal blocked in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
and that field goal block ended up being the spark that gave Charlotte the opportunity to keep Army from being able to walk off the field with a shutout, which would have been their first shutout since shutting out Navy at Mikey Stadium back in 2020. So all in all, it was a solid victory. A lot of players got some playing time. But for me as a fan and as an alum, I just kind of walked away with kind of a half full feeling that that was a great game that left a lot on the field. But to give some additional analysis, let's jump to Steve Chaloult. Steve, I know you were at the game, and I definitely enjoyed your tailgate as always. So let's hear your thoughts on the win over Charlotte.
Yeah, the game didn't feel like what the score said. It seemed more lopsided than that. We never really felt like the game was out of hand. I would have liked, and here I am, being a spoiled Army fan, that I'd like to have seen us put our foot on their throat a little bit tougher. We're about to jump into the money part of our schedule, and we've got two big games coming up. Temple's much improved after that. And our ability to go to a bowl game and do other things within the conference is really going to be hinging upon the next 3 weeks. And I would love to see us building on momentum. I think we played well. I don't think we played great. And I want us to be peaking at the right time, especially with this opponent we have coming up with Tulane, which is one of the probably top 3 programs within the conference. So, I really, I don't want to sound spoiled. The boys put it all out on the field. They played hard. Defense played really well. Offensively, I still want to see us cooking a little bit better. That we're not converting on third down like we need to. And that tells me that we're not staying on schedule, that we're not getting to 2nd and 6 and 3rd and 2. We're leaving some 3rd and 6s, and we're having to go to that 4th down. So we got to get back on schedule, get the machine rolling, and really start counting on and have that swagger on the offensive line that we can run on anybody. So I would love to have seen a little bit more of it. I'm not going to say I was disappointed, but I will say that we have to continue to improve because the meat of the schedule is coming soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you completely on that. Curtis, you weren't actually at the game, but we were texting a lot throughout the weekend. What are your thoughts on what you saw transpire on the field Saturday?
Honestly, Steve pretty much, once again, Steve's so good at taking the words out of my mouth, but it's true. I really wanted Army to just strangle this team and just demolish them. I was hoping that would be the case, but it didn't feel like the scoreboard didn't really reflect what really happened. I know it was 24-7. And yeah, as Sam, as you mentioned, they wouldn't have gotten that 7 points if they hadn't blocked their kick and then gone down the field and scored at the last second, really. But I thought that Army, like there were some good highlights to it. There was Cale Helms' run that went for 40 yards that I think Sam already mentioned. But then there was also that pass put in Noah Short in the 3rd or 4th quarter that went all the way down the field that showed great accuracy from Cale Helms. But I was just really looking at Charlotte and looking at how they played other teams. Like they played North Carolina, they played App State, they played Rice already. And in those games, I thought Charlotte had shown that they've shown their weakness against other teams, and I thought Army could really exploit that. I thought Army had the opportunity to just look at their previous games, look at what their weaknesses are in defense, and just really exploit it. But I didn't see us do it that well. I know we won the game, and I'm not complaining. I know it sounds very spoiled of me to say we should beat this team by 50. I'm not saying that specifically, but I'm saying that I think we could have done a little better, especially given the fact that we're playing Tulane this week on the 18th. I think it is the exact date down in Louisiana. And Tulane, I think it might be the toughest team on our schedule outside of Kansas State. And I know we beat Kansas State, but Tulane is a really good team. They're no team to joke around with. So we really needed to beat this Charlotte team, and then now we go into Tulane and we really need to beat this team too. And I think it's possible. We beat Kansas State. We have that grit. We have that swagger to us. To an extent. I know we lost our first game of the season and we've had some struggles throughout the year, but we showed that we could beat Kansas State. I think Tulane, there's a possibility there, but we'll see.
Yeah. Absolutely. We'll definitely see. Looking forward to seeing the game this weekend in person. So it's going to be a good test for the Army team. Richard, you were down in South Florida watching the game. What were your thoughts on what transpired on the field Saturday?
My thoughts on the game, I really did like Army's rushing ability. I really did like that, but still, I think obviously still a lot to be. Only one thing that also stood out to me, one penalty, but 15 yards. That is obviously so important to be, I think, as disciplined as they are, which obviously helps with the time of possession and winning the game, and also holding Charlotte to only one touchdown in the fourth quarter. I think Army's defense really was able to step up and win this game, and frankly just cruise to maybe a comfortable victory that will hopefully still spark them again down the road. They needed a nice, I wouldn't say a nice good win, a nice, I'm not going to say soft landing spot, but a nice good win where they and not too much to worry about. Good win for them, and hopefully that's got to spark them again going the rest of the season.
Yeah, Richard, great stat catch there. I did not realize there was only one penalty on Army's part
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
that
the
was a
game.
great
That's
catch.
really a great catch right
and
there.
304 rushing yards.
Yeah, Army has been in the top 5 in the nation for fewest penalties per game. They've had a couple of games where penalties have kind of gotten away from them. Fortunately, in the UAB game, when they had a few more, it wasn't costly to them. But it's nice to see that kind of discipline. Now, if they can just fire that discipline on all cylinders for 4 quarters, it would be great because they're going to need to do that against Tulane. Chuck, how about you? You were at the game, I believe. So,
I was indeed, Sam.
yeah, let's hear your thoughts about what you saw.
Yeah, well, yep. This being my second year as a sideline reporter for Army, it was the first time I actually experienced a game had inclement weather. Might say there was a storm on the field, more ways than one. Yeah, that was a very solid victory for the Black Knights, I thought. Particularly, Cale Helms set a career best with a 51-yard rush early on. Certainly noteworthy. Yeah, it was overall solid win. I do have to echo the sentiments of both Steve and Curtis just a little bit ago. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen a shutout. Again, 24/7 is nothing to sneeze at, but, it would have been great if they'd shut him out. But still, very solid victory. I'm not complaining, especially after the 3 losses early on. So, all told, I think it was a great day for Army and was glad to have been there for it.
Sure enough. Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, so just a couple of thoughts that I had about the game itself, other than what I said in the opening comments, was there was an opportunity in the fourth quarter late in the third quarter that coach saw to put in some other players, rotate a lot more players through to give them some experience. But this created a lot of concern from my part, and that was when Cale Helms came out of the game late in the third quarter after Army went up 24-0. We were, everyone around me, we were all expecting that Dwayne Coleman would have the opportunity to lead the Army team for another touchdown. It never happened. It never transpired. As a matter of fact, Army only from the late in the third quarter to the end of the game, Army only gained maybe 45 yards the rest of the game. And it was very frustrating to watch. And this was very concerning that there was that level of a drop off in the performance of the team on the field. Now, granted, part of it was that Charlotte was playing a little inspired. They were looking at the clock and not wanting to get shut out. I get it. But still, that level of performance, there was quite a noticeable drop off on the field. And it really was reflected in Coach Monken's comments after the game. You could tell how much not only he wanted to rotate people in and have them have the opportunity to score, but execution is so important to Coach Monken. And when the execution started faltering a little bit and late in the game, it was obviously very frustrating from a coaching standpoint. He wanted that shutout just as much as the team did, and they just didn't get it. So that was kind of frustrating as well. But I did want to say one observation that I did make that I was pleased with, and I would love to see a little bit more on, is some of the play calling it reflected a few new wrinkles in the offense. And one play in particular that I noticed was a B-back jet toss with a slot back outside. And the appearance of the play was it was going to be a pure triple option, and the Charlotte defense completely bit on the play, and they pursued the slot back, and I believe it was Carson Smith caught the quick toss and just had a hole that you could have driven, as we like to say, a Mack truck through, and went down the field for about 15, 20 yards. It was a beautiful play.
Yeah.
And I did not recall seeing that play executed previously this season. I also heard that on the play that Helms went down to the goal line, and I've got to go back and look at it honestly. But my understanding was that there was a different wrinkle on that play. It looked on paper like a play that we've seen run a lot, that we used to see with Bryson Daly run a lot. But apparently there was something different at the line of scrimmage, and maybe one of you guys caught that. But and I'll jump back to Steve here in a minute, and then back to you, Curtis. But I want to add a little wrinkle when I hand it back to you guys. What are your thoughts on quarterback now after this game? Who do you feel is, and we already know from coaches conference today who's going to start this Saturday against Tulane, but I'd like to hear you guys' comments on it. So let me jump back over to Steve.
Well, first of all, that play that you're referring to, I believe, is it's a counter quarterback keeper where they pull the guard and tackle, and this one went to the left hand side. It was the same play that we played, that we scored a touchdown in North Texas last year in the going into the end zone. And we went in untouched. So they've had that in our arsenal. We just haven't pulled it out in a while. But we have a lot of beef out there out front of that quarterback. If the defense is crashing down, they are left on an island, and then they have no shot on this thing. So that was a really a great play on that. And then your second question, I'm sorry, Sam.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on quarterback moving forward?
Again, a little birdie told me that Cale was a little dinged up, and they wanted to get him out of there on Saturday, and they brought in Coleman. I think Cale's the guy, and again, I don't think it's a matter of skill sets at this point. I think it's a matter of health. And I think Helms will be the one that will lead out of the way. He's showing sparks. He's really unflappable. So he's really calm under pressure. He's not as athletic as Coleman can be, but still has the combination of quickness, speed, and grit. But again, he's a little bit, as everybody is this time of year. Everybody's dinged up, so you're just a play away from having a different quarterback in there. So I think that's I was surprised that Coach went strictly with Helms for the first 3 quarters or so. I thought we might get a little bit more of a mixture, but that kind of showed his hand in terms of his level of confidence. And I didn't see anything during the game that would shake that for me to say that we would go a different direction. So it's going to be really health driven and, situationally driven at that, coming up against Tulane and certainly against Air Force.
Sure.
Well, speaking of Air Force, I was looking at that play that Sam had mentioned, and Steve had kind of gone over the quarterback counter draw, I guess you can call it, but I forgot the exact name of it. But I noticed that Air Force actually ran that play against Navy twice in the Air Force Navy game, or whatever they call it. I don't really care what they call it, to be honest. I don't care about both teams, but they use that Air Force. Air Force used that counter draw play twice, and I noticed that they've taken that playbook out of Army's playbook from us using it. Like when I first realized we used that play, that was 2017, because I know Army's offensive coordinator was the same offensive coordinator that we hired in 2014 when we hired Jeff Monken. We started to use that play more, I guess, fluently, you could say, with Ahmad Bradshaw back in 2017. And that was the year when we went into Air Force and we beat them it doesn't really matter, but I was gonna say we Air Force didn't score on us. I think the score was like 21-0, and
Yep.
we beat them away. But Ahmad Bradshaw would do that counter draw, quarterback draw, where we pull two or three guards, or no, we pull two guards or a guard and a tackle around the corner, and it looks like Air Force is taking that play out of our system. So it'll be interesting to see, like, when we play Air Force, what happens there when they use that play
Yeah.
against us. But beyond that, I think in terms of the quarterback position, um, look, I think.
Down.
Oh,
Oh,
I hope everything's all right.
sounded like a cat.
Yeah.
Incident.
I hope Steph's all
Cat
right.
on
Steph,
table.
oh, okay, cat on the table.
Cat
But
trying to get in the huddle.
I look at Kale Helms. I think he's great. I think he has a lot of promise, and he's done really great already. I mean, I think when I look at him, it's like, wow. I look at the Kansas State game, and I'm like, for a person who came on into the season being the third string, not really knowing that he's going to have much opportunities to play that season, to going into the second game and then being given the ball the entire game and then leading Army to a win is incredible. I mean, that is, to say the least. I haven't seen that from an Army quarterback in a long time. Someone who really did not expect to be in the game that much this season, going in and just performing. And I know that's the Army way, next man up,
Mhm.
but it's just incredible watching it. I mean, it's been incredible watching it this entire season. But at the same time, I think DC Dwayne Coleman, I think he's the more athletic quarterback. I think he has more speed. He has more. We haven't been able to see his intellect as it comes to the option play. I'm not talking about his intelligence in general. That's not what I'm saying here at all. I'm talking about the triple option, being able to determine when to keep the ball, when to pitch it, stuff of that nature. We haven't really been able to see him do it as often, but when he does have the opportunity to do it, he does seem to do a good job at doing so. So it's hard for me to say whether or not it still seems like an equal matchup, which is a weird thing to say, because it's like, you want one quarterback to really be the leader of the team, but this seems to be one of those seasons where we're having a two wing quarterback, I don't know, self argument, you could say, for on Army side, where we can go at you with two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah. Well, as we know from the Monken's Tuesday press conference today, which I actually subbed for Ken on and was able to ask a couple of questions, which one of them was actually someone else had asked about the starting quarterback right away, and he just up and announced, it is his exact words were, Kale has earned the start. And he mentioned that his confidence will continue to grow. And he's had two games in a row now. And they're going to give him the trust to start the game against Tulane. And as we know, we have Dwayne Coleman in the wings. Should there be, and hopefully not, some mishaps like what happened early in the North Texas game. But I believe that Coach Monken's confidence in Helm's maturity running the offense is increasing dramatically. So I'm sure we're going to see a healthy dose of Helms on Saturday. Let's kind of shift gears here away from the Charlotte game. Great, it's great to have two wins in a row. Army's actually on a winning streak in a season where we thought this was a season that was going to be a comedy of errors and not a season that was going to give us the opportunity to be able to set ourselves up for a run at the bowl. But Army is in good shape right now, but they do have the meat of their schedule coming up. But in the meantime, to stick with our traditional format here, Richard, I know you were watching a lot of college football this past weekend. Why don't
yep.
you just give us 5 of the top 20 scores that you thought
Okay.
were impactful this
Oh.
past weekend?
Let's see. Navy, by the way, defeated a Temple 32-31. Air Force, by the way,
Yeah.
Air Force, by the way, they lost 51-48 to UNLV. As far as the college football 25 scores from this weekend, let's see. We have let's see. conference schedule. Let's see, top 25. Let's see. Okay, we've got let's see. We've got, let's say, um, FAU defeated Rice 27-21. You've got also Syracuse and SMU 18. And also we've got, let's say, on the college football scoreboard, by the way. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. College football 25 scores. Let's see. Yes, top 25 scores from, let's say, week 7. Okay, okay. Now it's up. Oh, okay. Number one, Ohio State 34-16 over number 17 Illinois. Alabama number 8 27-24 over Missouri. You've got also Pitt defeating number 25 Florida State 34-31. Oklahoma and Texas. Red River Rivalry, really a one-sided one. Texas 23-6 over Oklahoma. And finally, you have number 12 Tennessee defeating Arkansas 34-31. Tennessee is now 5-1 on the season.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, I'm beginning to wonder if anyone's going to knock off Ohio State this year. So far, I don't see any indication. Our panel might disagree, but
Yeah,
then
I
there
would say it's
was,
like an NFL team.
yeah, no doubt. And then there was a pretty good slate of American conference games this past weekend as well. Chuck, give us a rundown of what took place in the American Conference this past Saturday.
You bet, Sam had a few good ones. UTSA Rice game, that was big victory. UTSA 61-13. Meanwhile, Florida Atlantic, the UAB contest, saw a 53-33 Florida Atlantic victory. And as Richard said, the Temple Navy game, real nail biter, ended in a very close Navy victory, 32-31. Yeah, that was definitely one went to the end. Yeah, he was hanging on the edge of their seat, you might say. And North Texas versus South Florida ended in a 63-36 South Florida victory.
I was hoping Navy would. I hoping that Temple would beat up Navy. I was just hoping.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about Navy and Air Force in just a second. We also had did you mention Tulane's game against East Carolina? That was also I believe a Friday night game.
Oh yeah, that one. That was another good one.
Yeah. So we obviously had some we're getting into the meat of the schedule is the point. And in the American Conference, there were some big games this past Saturday that people had their eyes on. One was North Texas playing South Florida, and it was at North Texas. I heard that North Texas actually gave students the day off, and they packed their stadium. Had a sellout for the first time in their history, I guess, and they played really well for one half of football, and then the bottom fell out on them, and it turned into a scoring fest in favor of South Florida. Everything that could go wrong for North Texas went wrong. And then I honestly thought that East Carolina was going to pull off the upset of Tulane, and that didn't happen. Tulane managed to reach down inside and a little grit and managed to pull out the win there. Both extremely talented teams, but it actually made me feel a little bit better about, how Army had faced East Carolina, but it was a test that shows Tulane is they're the real deal. And we'll talk about Tulane in a minute. I wanted to talk just for a second about Air Force and Navy. Navy, for 3 weeks straight, have struggled or had to rely on last minute plays to pull out a victory. And they beat Rice 3 weeks ago, but it was not nearly the blowout that everyone thought that it was going to be. I think it was 21-13. Then last week, they had their showdown with Air Force, and by the grace of the football gods, Air Force's quarterback fumbled on Air Force's final drive of the game, their only turnover of the game, and it killed what could have possibly been a game-winning drive for Air Force over Navy at Annapolis. And then this past week, Temple scored a late touchdown, was up 31-24 with less than a minute to go. And on 4th and 1, Blake Horvath saved Navy's season with a 45, 50-yard touchdown run. And then Navy goes for 2 and gets the win, 32-31. Meanwhile, Air Force, this is another team that I'm telling you, they found their quarterback. And you just take a look at their offensive production and their scoring ever since they started Liam Sarka at the quarterback position. They have been absolutely burning people with the way they run the triple option. And UNLV had no answers for Air Force. They really didn't. Well, of course, Air Force had no answers for UNLV either whenever UNLV had the ball. But it boiled down to a last-second field goal that Air Force kicked wide right. Otherwise, that one was going into overtime. So my observations, and I'm going to let the panel talk about this as well. My observation is we still have Commander-in-Chief. It's looming in the distance. And Air Force is a team that's found its offense. They haven't found their defense, but they found their offense. It makes them extremely dangerous. They play Wyoming this weekend. It's a game for them to be able to start putting some pieces of the puzzle together. I expect them to be a very tough opponent on the first Saturday of November out in Colorado Springs. Navy, on the other hand, their defense, it's got a lot of question marks. It's not performing up to the level of the normal Brian Newberry defense. And once again, I think that they're going to start fixing a few things, maybe rotating a few players. But as of right now, Navy plays FAU this Saturday, and then they go into Murderers Row in the American Conference, playing South Florida, Memphis, North Texas. They got to play Notre Dame. All of this before they play the Army game. So they have really got a tough row to hoe, as we used to say. But I'd be curious to hear, from Steve and Curtis about our Service Academy rivals. Steve, what's your thoughts about the two teams and where they stand right now?
Yeah, I don't think, the records never really matter, especially against Navy. Air Force has been a little off, but to your point, I think that they have found their offense, and especially with their quarterback. So we can't. We've got the Air Force game is going to be the pivotal game for us for the season thus far. We have to win that ball game. It's going to be whether or not the next two we go 1-1, 0-2, or 2-0, right? So, and that's pretty obvious. But securing that Air Force win is really paramount for us to come out of this 4-4 or 5-3, and setting ourselves up, because we have to have 6 wins before Navy to even get a bowl bid. So we've got to take care of our business against our Service Academy brethren. But we're playing in Colorado Springs, and that's a great equalizer to travel all the way out in the West Coast, to be a mile high, and they're pretty spirited out there also. So, and they owe us, and they're going to be really motivated to do that. And there is no love lost between Calhoun and Monkey.
No.
So, there's a lot of things that'll be playing in that for us to have to come play with our A game. In terms of Navy plays us tough all the time, especially on defense against our offense, and we change our identity. That's a whole other time we can talk about it. We've got a couple of weeks before that game that we can talk ad nauseum about us going into the shotgun and why I hate it. But it is they're going to be what they are, and the only thing that could change is coming out of that, as you speak, frankly, Sam, about the murderer's row that they got to go through. I mean, they're going to be banged up. They're going to feel a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of intensity going during that time, and I think followed by Army, and then Air Force would be third, I think, on their schedule in terms of all that. So, Service Academy, we talk a lot about next people up. Air Force has the same thing. Navy, they do the same thing. And quite frankly, and Sam will appreciate this, that is why throughout history, United States Army, United States military has been so difficult to beat, because other militaries, as you could find the lead tank with the colonel that's sticking his head out of the top of that tank. You shoot that colonel, and the tanks, none of them know what to do. But the American way of fighting is right down to the last private, the last breath. They're going to carry that mission out, scratching and clawing and going through. And that's how Army plays football. That's how our Army teaches to fight. And that's why, that's what we've done since we were knee high to a grasshopper running around the field. We've always fought right to the last guy. So it's fun. I love Service Academy football because of that. When I played against service academies and being prior service myself, I was a sergeant before I even got to West Point to play football. It was awesome to get that second chance, the second lease on life, be able to play football against those that you're going to serve with. And so I watch them and I get excited for them to win. Navy only. I don't get excited about Air Force ever winning. But it's fun to watch them play and develop. And we're all pretty even now, which makes it really exciting as we go into every season.
Well said. Absolutely. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go down to the recruiting office right now and see if I can sign back up. Curtis, how about you, man?
So, I look at Navy and Air Force. All right, if I'm being honest, I always look at every weekend. The first thing I do after an Army game is I wake up the next day on a Sunday and I just look at the Navy and Air Force football games if they have one, right? I look at how they played. I look at their highlights. Look at like the full game. I try to record it and just break down their offense and their defense as well. And honestly, Air Force. Look, I've had it pulled up on my phone just a second ago, but Air Force, I mean, they've had, as you mentioned, Sam, their offense has been pretty good recently. I mean, they put up 31 points on Navy. They then put up 48 points on UNLV. And if it wasn't for their missed field goal, we'd be talking about a whole nother game. I mean, maybe they'd go into overtime and beat UNLV. But Air Force as a whole has been kind of skeptical. And I know every armed service game, or what do you want to call it, the commander in chief games, are always going to be a toss up. I mean, those are games where they put their lives on the line, like in terms of the football games, and they put everything out there. But I think, I don't know. I guess my opinion is that, like, so ESPN thinks, if I'm going to be honest, this is what ESPN says, and I hate to repeat ESPN. ESPN thinks it's a 50-50. It's a toss up for the Army Air Force game. But however, I think that is true in the sense that Army's going to be playing in Colorado. It does beat us down in that aspect, and it's harder to play in Colorado. And I'm just saying this from a natural standpoint of the air, the oxygen in the atmosphere in Colorado Springs. It's hard to get used to that. I know that's something that we do play there very often, but it's very hard to get used to that atmosphere. I'm not going to use it as a reason for why Air Force might tie us or like might get close to beating us. So that's not what I'm trying to say here. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of like outstanding figures that we can't really, attribute to practices and stuff of that nature when it comes to Air Force. I think Air Force has, they're starting to find their way of mobility on offense. But that's my thought. But at the same time, I'm not really so convinced that Air Force is really that good. I hate to say it, but I'm not really convinced that Air Force is really. This is just my opinion. I know not everyone's going to agree with me, but I just don't think Air Force is that strong of a team. I also hate them to my guts. I mean, I don't hate them like I love what Air Force does for the U.S. I love what they do, but as a football fan, I genuinely do not like Air Force. I can't stand them, and I don't think Air Force is that strong this year. And I think we can actually go into. I think we can go into Air Force and destroy those Zoomies. I don't think that this is really. I'm not saying we take them easy, because they have a week off before they play us. And then they play Wyoming, and then they have a week off, and then they play Army. So this is not an easy victory, but I think this should be a win for Army. But then when it comes to Navy, look, this wing T thing is deadly. It's a Delaware. I think it's called the Delaware wing T, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That wing T, I break it down that they had this play where they had their quarterbacks as a shotgun, and I guess you could say their offensive line is also in the shotgun formation, but then they chop block at the last second, and they somehow and they do it because they're trying to get the quarterback, or at least give the quarterback a view of what's going on. Because Blake Corback isn't that tall; he's like 5'9", maybe. I mean, he might be 5'9", 5'10", but they're trying to give him a view of what's going on in terms of just like a quick 3-second view beyond the defensive lineman, so they can see what's going on. There's some play calls that I've never seen Navy run before, but it works. And I'm a little concerned about them, but it's too early to say whether or not we should be concerned.
Sure.
Because they just lost. I mean, against Temple, they were down. What was it? I think at one point it was like 28-14. Temple, if I'm not mistaken. I can look up the score, but at one point Navy was down 2 touchdowns to Temple. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. It might have been 24-14, which is less than 2 touchdowns. But I looked at Temple. I know Temple's a good team this year, but I don't think that they're as good as. Look, Navy is 5-0. Like they did not play like a 5-0 team. And I'm not trying to talk trash to them, but I'm just saying, like, if you look at that game, it didn't really showcase a 5-0 team that Navy represented. Look, I know this is coming from an Army fan. So I hate to say all this, but
Yeah.
we'll see when it comes to December and
Sure.
November. That's all I
We'll
have to
see.
say.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I'll just we'll see. I was just curious what your thoughts were for a midseason check on both of them, seeing where they are.
Sorry, I just really don't like Navy or Air Force.
Yeah, no. Well, welcome to the club. So quick question, yes or no? Just a yes or no. For you and Steve. Troy Calhoun, hot seat or not?
Hot seat. Yes.
Steve?
No.
No? Okay.
You don't think so? Wow.
Yeah.
No.
So, well, we'll
No.
definitely be the next couple of weeks. We will definitely be talking ad nauseum about the Zoomies, because that'll be the game after. But next up, again, Tulane this Saturday. Coach Monken today in his press conference said that he believes they are one of the best teams in college football. He says they're talented, they're well coached, they have 2 P4 wins this season. They are number 1 in winning percentage in the American Conference over the past, I believe he said 4 seasons, which is pretty incredible. And then, of course, he had one of his Monken quips that is always funny. And he mentioned, he was talking about their victory over East Carolina and Tulane's quarterback, the fact that he's had no interceptions this season, that he's really cool on the fire. He threw for over 300 yards against East Carolina, and he hit 12 different receivers. So what Monken said in his press conference was, man, their quarterback threw the ball to 12 different receivers in that ECU game. We don't even have 12 players that can catch the ball. So it was pretty funny, just hearing Monken talk about that. But he has the utmost respect for Tulane's coach and their program. And Tulane is definitely historically a team that has given Army fits, even under the Monken era. And obviously, Tulane is going to be gunning for Army pretty hard, especially after the American Conference Championship last season, where Army literally had everything go right for them that night, and Tulane had practically everything go wrong for them. So, Steve, what do you think are the keys to victory against Tulane this Saturday?
Well, I just want to, just because we are such a show of integrity here, I gotta Curtis. Blake Horvath is 6'2", by the way. You were talking, he's 5'6".
I thought he was 5'10" or something.
No,
my bad. That's my fault.
He's a big cat. He's a big cat.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of Tulane, and this is a prime example of, we have to play the game we played in the AAC championship against Tulane this year. We've got to start fast, finish strong, and not take the foot off the gas. We haven't showed that we can do that. We've shown fight. We've shown that we can, come from behind. We've shown that we can, but really to start fast and keep our foot on the gas. If how we played against Charlotte, if they had an offense, it would have been a dogfight. So and Tulane has that offense. You got a quarterback that came from BYU.
Yep.
It's interesting. He really he's a 50% passer. He's not 60 or 70. So we can get to him. I think we can rattle him, but we've got to dominate the line of scrimmage, start fast, get ahead, and never, ever take our foot off the gas. We got to utilize halftime situations where we score last. And then if we deferred and we get the ball coming out in the second half, where that could be a 14 or a 10-point swing, we've got to utilize all of those things and start limiting the number of possessions that a 53, 54% quarterback can have, because he'll tighten up, and then we start, imparting our own will at that point. So, if we get behind on this, it's going to be a long afternoon. I suspect it'll be warm. It'll be muggy. And we're just going to need to fight early and get through this and never take our foot off their throats.
Yep, I believe the forecast is temperature in the mid 80s with about a 50% chance of rain. So typical Louisiana weather going on down there. I couldn't agree with you more, Steve. As usual, you and I are almost always in sync on these matters. Army, they have got to stop the run, clearly, but they have to be able to establish the run. They have to be able to maintain time of possession and make every drive count. Long drives, time of possession, finish drives with touchdowns, not field goals, and keep Tulane's offense off the field. And when Tulane's offense is on the field, they're frustrated because they're not getting many touches on the ball and they make mistakes. And on the flip side, Army's got to tighten up their special teams. I'm really concerned about the special teams execution so far this season. Sometimes it's been good, sometimes it's been bad, and then there's been just plays that have really hurt in some of the games that we have been to and that we have seen on TV. So I trust our special teams to get it together. But this is going to have to be a perfect game. This is going to have to be the best game from start to finish that Army has played the entire season, because as Coach said, Tulane is, in his opinion, and I quote, one of the best teams in college football. So I'll be there for the game. Anyone else going to be in attendance? I know Stephanie will be with me. We're there for the CIC donor appreciation weekend and the activities going on, including a dinner at the World War II Museum on Friday night that I'm looking forward to. And we'll do our lightning round in just a second. But anyone else going to be down in the Big Easy this weekend?
I might be there. There's a chance, but we'll see.
So let us know.
I'll text you, Sam. Yeah,
you let me know, all right? Because we're definitely going to hook up. There's too much fun to be had in NOLA.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course.
We know that well. Okay, let's go ahead and go through our lightning round. And
wait, can I go first with the rank? Because my headphones might die and I might lose you guys.
Oh,
so
yeah, absolutely. So we've got Army versus the Green Wave this Saturday in Ullman Stadium in New Orleans on Saturday. Kickoff is at noon Eastern time, 11 o'clock Central time in the Big Easy. So Curtis, you go ahead and lead us off. What's your prediction?
I'll make it quick. I think it'll be 28-17 Army.
28-17, Curtis says. All right, I like that. Chuck, how about you?
I think Army will emerge victorious, but there's going to be a little more of a spread. I think it's going to be 35-21 Army.
35-21. Okay, all right. I like that kind of offensive production prediction for Army. I hope that one comes true.
She'll see.
Richard, what's your thoughts on this game?
My thoughts on this game, 35 sets.
Okay, all right. That even a bigger spread. Steve, lay it on us, man.
It's going to be a nail biter. It's going to be a nail biter. It's going to be a 30-28 game, 30-28 Army. I think we can score some points. I think they can score some points. It's going to come down to time of possession last series, and we'll pull it out with a squeaker, and our special teams will kick a field goal to win that ball game. I've got Centerio, I've got so much faith in him as a human being and as a coach. He will find his way.
Sweet. All right, I like it. And Stephanie, you're gonna be with me down in the Big Easy. What's your thoughts on the big game Saturday against the Green Wave?
I also just read what um the coach of Tulane had said about their matchup with Army. And he knows that our run game is huge, so they are going to really try to combat that. And he says this is going to be one of our biggest opponents, one of our toughest opponents. The fact that they have a 4-1 record. I agree with Steve that it's going to be close. An Army better win. But at this point in time, I'm hoping that there's no injuries to our quarterback either. At this point in time, I will do the same kind of scoring that Steve said, but I am unfortunately going to say Tulane will win, but I think it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be really close because of the fact that it's going to be difficult and the fact that our record is 10 wins over 13 wins for every meetup, or 13 losses per the meetups. That's why I think it's going to be close, but it's not going to be easy.
All right, and what was the score that you were predicting?
I think Steve said 28-30 something.
30-28 Army was Steve's prediction.
And I'm thinking it's going to be that, but with Tulane instead.
All right. All right. Stephanie's going to be our.
And I'm not afraid to.
I know. Stephanie's going to be our devil's advocate on this huddle, but I'm going to go with the close score. I can tell you there is a ton of mutual respect between Coach Sumrall and Coach Monken. They really are good friends. They respect each other greatly. They've watched each other through the years in their coaching careers, and these two teams are going to be coming to the field a friendly strife to really lay it out all on the line on Saturday. It's going to be a good game. I agree. I think it's going to be a nail biter, and that's obviously not comfortable for those of us who are in the Army faithful because you're sweating bullets, which we've come to know many times in the Monken era. And most of the times when you sweat bullets in the Monken era, it ends out okay, and you can watch a replay of the game and not sweat any bullets because you know that we won. This Saturday, it's going to be one of those games. It's not only a possibility of rain, but the rain that you feel will also be mixed with the sweat of the bullets that you're sweating as you're watching the game. But I think that in the end, my factor in making my score prediction is based upon the fact that in the past 11 quarters, since the first quarter ended of the East Carolina game, Army's defense, the defense that is, has only given up 20 points in the span of 11 quarters. They have really began to pull themselves together and play Nate Woody's defense and get really comfortable with his schemes and his preparation for every game. I think the defense is going to be very similarly ready. I think that Tulane is going to find the going a little tougher, and that their quarterback is going to have a little bit of a stressful time in the running his plays. So that being said, I'm predicting a score of Army 28, Tulane 26. That's my guess. So are there any closing comments here before I close us out? Great conversation tonight talking about this weekend's game and last Saturday's game over Charlotte.
Yeah, well, I just hope Army can continue their winning ways. I know it's going to be a tough fight for them against Tulane, but have confidence they'll pull it off once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chuck. So thanks again for everyone who joined us tonight. Chuck, thank you for calling in from Long Island.
Pleasure.
I believe Curtis had to sign off. He was having some issues with his earbuds going dead on him. Richard, thanks for calling in again from
My pleasure, Sam.
South Florida. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
You need to make another Army game, man. You need to come join me at one of the games again sometime. And Steve, man, you make the huddle complete for me to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining us tonight from South Jersey.
Well, I had heard a rumor that Richard had a very fast haircut, and it was not understated. You're looking really good, Richard.
Thank you. Wait,
Really good.
wait.
Looking really
Steve,
good. You're
Steve,
looking fast. You're looking really fast.
Who told you about my haircut?
The screen. The screen
Oh,
told
the
me.
screen. Oh, the
Speaker.
screen. Oh, the screen.
Yeah.
Speaks for itself, man.
It's a dead giveaway.
You can pass inspection tonight, Richard. You're
Thank
looking
you.
good, man.
Thank you.
And Stephanie, as always, thanks for putting this together from your perch there in Minnesota, and for always being that voice of reason on our lightning round.
No problem. As much as I hate being the voice of reason, someone has to do it, no matter how much of a diehard person I am. Sometimes you do have to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, I will say that in the prediction department so far this season, Stephanie has the best record amongst us. So let's hope that we can chip away at that title this coming Saturday.
Yes.
Like I said, I hope Army wins. But
Absolutely.
that was my prediction.
So for everyone who will be in New Orleans this weekend, Stephanie and I will very much look forward to catching up with you at the game or in the Big Easy in the French Quarter with a daiquiri or a hurricane or whatever your beverage of choice might be. And for those of you watching from a distance, just watch for us in the stands and let's hope that we're watching Army roll to victory at Yulman Stadium this Saturday. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, we represent CamMVetsMedia, representing CamMVetsMedia, representing the cadets, the midshipmen, the military, and the veterans, and all of Army athletics and other activities going on at West Point at all times. So we appreciate everyone. Since 2008. Thank you for that, because I didn't even realize it was since 2008. But since 2008,
every Tuesday. I'm surprised.
We will convene our huddle again next Tuesday night and look forward to talking about the big victory that we anticipate over Tulane this Saturday, and we can start talking about beating the Zoomies. So with that, good night, everybody. Go Army, beat the Green Wave.